let's forget about yesterday's problem. 32 ounces. Write this down. 32 ounces is 25% of a gallon. (32 ounces is 25% of a gallon. How many ounces is a gallon? How many OZs in a gallon? Let's see if I can't explain where we were going with this yesterday. Generally speaking, up until this point, when you had ratios and proportions and all that stuff there, like this percent, like a percent is, I would have told you, yes, please draw this percent box. See if we can fill it in correctly this time. Percent, actual, and we are talking about, what are we splitting up here? A gallon, right? Into portions, correct? Okay. I know I have a 25%, correct? A whole gallon is 100%, correct? The other percent that I'm missing there is 75%. Okay. Now, 32 ounces is the 25%. So where does the 32 ounces go? This is where I made a mistake yesterday, although it was a different type of problem. Nick, 32 ounces goes
Next to 25.
right, because 32 ounces is that 25%. I want to know how many ounces is in a whole gallon, so I am missing this one here, correct? So typically we would do this, make the fraction 25 over 100, I don't need this part, equals 32 over what number? Easier way to do this, Mickey Kala?
Reduce it to 1/4.
Sure, reduce it to 1/4. And then 1 times 32 is 32, so 4 times 32 is 144. Thank you, Mrs. Nyer. Was that for John? John, your lunch is here. Okay. Now, here is the deal. Like I said, that's kind of 6th grade, kind of early 7th grade stuff here. There's more than one way to skin that proverbial cat. Here is kind of what you can see in this. Okay, in math, we have words. Well, we have an English sentence here that we can turn into a math equation that is much quicker and much simpler if you understand what's going on. Wait, do you have a question?
Yes. I think 32 times 4 is 128.
All right, sure, 128. Gosh, this is just, I can't wait to get through this lesson. Let's change this to 128. I don't know. I was just thinking of a gross thing or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, back to this here. Okay, oh, now 128 stuff in front of my box there. And here's the deal, people. This is what you should jot down in your notes. Okay, the word is, when you see that English word is in math, that is an equal sign. Okay, 32 ounces equals 25%, and then when you see the word of, that is a multiplication sign. Okay, 25% of a gallon. I don't know how many ounces are in a gallon. That's my unknown thing, so that is my letter, because I have an equation. I don't know how many ounces are in a gallon. Okay, so if you write it out mathematically, this whole thing boils down to 32 equals 25% times what number? And if I have that equation there, what would be the easiest way to solve that equation? Anybody? First of all, we don't work well with percent, so we just need to change it either to a fraction or to a decimal. It doesn't matter which, whichever way you prefer. Okay, in this case, I would probably go with the fraction, because everybody knows the question I'm going to ask you. If I have an equation that looks like that and I want to get rid of this fraction, what would I do? Somebody said it, I don't think.
Reciprocal.
Yeah, multiply by its reciprocal. So you'd end up with 4/1 times 4/1 times 4/1, and I will get that 128 that way as well. And you don't have to do all the boxes, you don't have to sit down and throw all those other percents in there or whatever. But you need to look for the key words, which are the is's and the ofs. And then it just writes into a nice equation of which you guys are starting to get a little bit better at. Nicholas?
Couldn't you just know that a whole gallon is 100% and that you have to multiply 32 times?
Sure. Lucas? But then you're not always gonna know that, I'm just saying. In this case, maybe. Lucas?
On the first time, how do you get 128?
I just multiplied wrong and got 144 first.
No,
On the first one that I did,
yeah.
well, it's gonna be behind on this, so I don't really have, I can't really show you there. I would say don't worry about it, because that was the whole point of the whole thing. If you have another one on the next one, we'll talk about that. Let me give you another one there, Jackson.
Let's just say the percent was 30%.
Then you can change two decimals and go 0.3, or divide 0.3 into whatever that was there. How about this one? What percent of 50 is 32? Maybe was that the one we did yesterday? Maybe not. No. What percent, write this one down, what percent of 50 is 32? Question mark I don't have room for. Okay, it's an English sentence. If you can turn it into a math equation, you can solve that. Okay, what percent, first of all, tells you that your answer needs to be in percent form. So you're going to need to change it to a percent in the end. But that's what I don't know. The word of means times 50 is equals 32. There is my equation. Generally speaking, I usually put the number in front of the letter, or this would turn into 50 times what number is 32? How do I solve that for the letter N? 50 times what number is 32? What do I need to do? And here's where those of you that are a little mathematical can save yourself a whole bunch of time here. What do you have to do there, Lucas?
Divide the 50.
Divide by 50. Divide by 50. Now, ladies and gentlemen, take a look here. N equals 32 over 50. If the problem would have asked for what fraction, this would be my answer. I could reduce it, but that would be my answer. But it doesn't. It asks for what percent. So here's where 32 over 50, easiest way to change that to a percent, there's a few different ways you could. Is that the easiest way to change a percent, Nathaniel, is?
Multiply both by 2, so 50.
Exactly, because percent means out of 100, multiply by 2 over 2, sorry, and you get 64 over 100. What percent is 64 over 100? 64%. Another way you could have done it, this is a division problem. It's 32 divided by 50. Put my decimal here. How many times does 50 doesn't go into 32 but goes into 326 times? That's 300. 50 goes into 204 times. My decimal is 0.64. How do I change the decimal to a percent? Just move it over 2 places. 64%, 64%. Okay. Another one, since we have all this time here. How much money is 16 2/3%? How much money is 16 2/3% of $1,200? Alright, I'm looking for words that will change this from an English sentence into a math sentence, in which case I would see what? How much money is my unknown thing, so let's today just put M for money. What's the word is? is always equal, 16 and 2/3%. The word of is times 1200. There's my equation. What do I have to do to solve that? What do I have to do to get the letter M by itself? Well, wait a minute, the letter M is by itself. So the only thing I need to do is actually do this, which scares a lot of people. Why? Why does that scare you? Couldn't tell him why is that a scary thing? What do you change 16 and 2/3% into? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is where those little fraction circles come in handy, because there are certain percentages that are even little fractions when you look at it. If you look at your little fraction circles, or maybe even on that thing, I don't know if that's got it on there, 0.16 something something something, you will find that this actually works simply down into what? It's 1/6. 16 and 2/3% is 1/6. It's the same thing. And as you get older, you'll see that 12.5% is the same as 1/8. 16 and 2/3% is the same as 1/6. 20% is the same as 1/5. 11 and 1/9% is the same as 1/9. That's why I gave those things to you, so hopefully eventually you start to recognize it. You can just change this little thing here into 1/6, because that's what it is as a fraction. Multiply that by 1200. What do you end up with? 6 goes into 1200 200 times. So 200 is your answer. And the little percentage boxes will still work if you like to use that there, but if you can change it into an equation, it's much, much, much quicker and simpler probably than doing all those boxes sort of things. They also throw sales tax in here. Well, let's do this one. 20% of what number is 40? 20% of what number is 40? Again, you could sit down and do the whole percent box and probably be just as well, but if you see the word of and you see the word is, it's going to make a nice little equation. 20% of what number is 40? What do you suppose the best way to do that would be? Maybe it's your choice. Emma Haynes? Well, it wouldn't be 2. If you're going to divide, it'd have to be, if you change 20% to a decimal, it would change to what? You have to move the decimal 2 places over. 20% is actually the same thing as 0.2. And then you'd have to divide by 0.2. Divide by 0.2. How many times does 0.2 go into 40? Decimal over, add a 0. 200. Quicker way to do it? Lauren? Yeah, change 20% to 1/5. 1/5 times what number is 40? And then the always burning question is, if you have a fraction in front of a letter, it's flip and multiply. Multiply by 5, multiply by 5. You're going to get 200 either way. And it's your choice as to what you prefer. There was one more sales tax one. Where is it? Oh no, one more. Write this one down. See if we can get to the bottom of this one here. Dixon made a $2,000 down payment. Made a $2,000 down payment. What's a down payment, ladies and gentlemen? What's that mean? If you make a down payment, come on, you people are almost old enough to get to a point where you need that. What is a down payment? Almost sounds like what it is. Lauren?
It's like, so when you first buy something, the first thing you make it.
Yeah, a lot of times when you buy a car or a house, things that cost a lot of money, people will ask you to give a down payment, which means you give X amount of dollars. Like, you'll see the TV commercials that say no down payment. That means you don't have to give any money, but a lot of times you have to give a certain percentage. For instance, right now to buy a house, you probably have to have 20%, they'll say 20% down. That means if you're buying a $100,000 house, you need to give the bank right off the bat $20,000, a $20,000 down payment. Why would somebody want you to do that?
Say no there.
Well, because that's kind of like a little guarantee that you're not just gonna, if you bought a house for $100,000 and didn't put any down payment on it, that means the bank, if you don't have the money and can't make the payments on it, the bank is gonna end up with that house and owe that $100,000 on it. Whereas if you paid $20,000 down and you can't make your bills, then the bank at least has that $20,000. They can maybe resell your house for whatever and make some money or do something with it. But if you don't give them any money right away down payment, then the bank or whoever loans you the money can be completely stuck with the entire bill of whatever it is. So if Dixon made a $2,000 down payment on a $8,000 car, the question is, what percent of the price? The down payment was what percent of the price? Now here, children, focus on this problem here. Jack, did you write that down or am I just talking to the wind here? Have you written anything down, Jack?
Yes.
What have you written down so far? You got a whole page of notes on the other side? Just checking. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are English people. Again, I said look for the key words that tell it that you can change it from an English into a math sentence. Do you see the word of and do you see the word is? There is an is there? Is there an is there? No, but you know that is a verb, right? Is and what other word would be the same as is, just in a different tense of is? Nathaniel? No. Isn't it a helping verb or a linking verb or some sort of verb like that?
Why?
Made is actually a verb in the first sentence, but I'm looking for the word is, a form of the word is, which is, Corinne, was. So here's where you got to make a little bit of a deductive leap here. The down payment was what percent of the price? That is the equation that they give you, and you just need to fill in the blanks with what you know. Do you know what the down payment was? What was the down payment? Down payment was $2,000. I don't know what percent it is, but I do know what the price of the car was, which is $8,000. Correct? How do I get the letter N by itself? Remember, I need to change it to a percent, by the way, when I'm done. What do I have to do to get rid of the 8,000 here, Lucas? Right, I divide by 8,000. I divide by 8,000, and here is the fraction that I need to change into a percent. Any suggestions on how to do that? Johnny? Exactly. 1/4 is what this is, the fraction, divide them both by 2,000. And then hopefully you know what percent 1/4 is. 1/4 is 25%. So the letter N equals 25%. So hopefully through all this you can